We made it to Poitiers. Let's go explore. Saint-Hilaire. Let's go inside.
We're in Church Saint-Hilaire, built in the 11th century.
One of Eleanor of Aquitaine's chariots, the Duke of Salisbury, his funeral was held here. He died protecting her with his nephew, William Marshall. You ever heard of him? The greatest knight in history. Well, he was killed by the de Lusignan family, and his funeral was here in Saint-Hilaire.
In 1172, Richard the Lionhart was consecrated as both Count of Poitou and the Duke of Aquitaine here in this church.
We are inside Eleanor's palace. Eleanor was a force to be reckoned with. First, she was married off to the French king, Louis VII, who was an extreme religious fanatic. She tried for 15 years to get an annulment because, let's face it, she's passionate, she needs life. She had her eye on the bigger prize, the young Henry, the future King of England, Henry II. He was young, vigorous, and full of life, just like her. Did I mention that she was 10 years a senior? Anyway, as soon as she called Henry to come here, he came straight to Poitiers, to this palace. They got married right here. Then, of course, to really upset the King of France, the former husband, she had 5 sons with Henry. Right here in this spot that Joan of Arc was brought to prove she was a virgin.
Was examined by a committee of doctors and bishops to prove she was the maid of God and be allowed to join the fight against England.
So we're on the backside of the palace, what's left of it. We were inside the Great Hall. This is the palace that Eleanor lived in. Part of the palace, this is where Henry came when Eleanor called him. She told him, let's get married. They did. Remember, she was at least 10 years a senior, but she was the most beautiful woman of her time and passionate. That's why there were songs written about her. And here is the palace. So legend has it, here in Poitiers, it's where the troubadour court of love began. We're here at Le Cathedral, St. Pierre, built by Eleanor of Aquitaine and her husband, King Henry II of England, right here at the Plantagenet Cathedral. We are inside the cathedral that Henry II had built for Eleanor. Most men give their women flowers. Henry gave Eleanor a cathedral. Up here is the actual real stained glass, but it's really hard to see up close, so luckily for us they have this replica. This is the only true picture we have of Eleanor. We have Henry II and Eleanor ruling together with their children behind them, in harmony. Haha, we know that wasn't true. Started off great. They were passionate, but they were also very tumultuous. And, well, let's face it, Henry II was a control freak, and that caused many issues in the family. Eleanor convinced her children to have an uprising against their father because she wanted them to have their rightful lands and titles, which he wouldn't give them because he was a control freak.
And after her son's failed attempts to overthrow Henry II, He took Eleanor, put her in England, and held her captive for 16 years.
So finally, Henry II died, and Richard the Lionheart became king, and the first thing he did was have his knight, William Marshal, the greatest knight in history, go straight to England to free his mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine. We've made it to Chaillot, which is where Richard the Lionheart, the ultimate warrior, died in 1199. It's not open, but we're going to see how close we can get. Maybe jump a fence. So behind me is Chateau de Chaillot. It's where Richard the Lionheart died in 1199. He wanted this whole area. He was the Duke of Normandy. He was the Count of Poitou. He had part of Brittany, and he and the King Philip of France had a major rivalry. So he took this for strategic purposes. Richard was a huge warrior, very successful. Unfortunately, he died a ridiculous death. After he took Chaillot, he was simply walking around the premises and an arrow simply shot him in the arm. He thought no big deal. He went to his tent, which was probably right here in this area. And when they went to take it out, they had an issue. And then gangrene set in. Not good. Well, he called for his mother, Eleanor of Aquitaine. She rushed here from Fontevraud Abbey and was here for his death.
So at that time, Richard controlled pretty much the whole western half of France. And if it wasn't for just careless action one day, and he had survived, we can only imagine what France would have turned out like.